So if you are a fan of the Armani Code franchise, chances are you knew that there was a brand new Armani Code that just came out this year. It's called Armani Code Parfum. This is what brands have been doing lately. Gucci Guilty Parfum, Bleu de Chanel Parfum by Chanel. So every brand has kind of been putting out a Parfum version, which is typically viewed as the strongest version of their existing fragrance. Well, in today's episode, I'm going to be telling you all about this one. I'm also going to let you know how I think it stacks up against the original and other flankers. I'm excited to get on with this video, so make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin today's video on Armani Code Parfum by Giorgio Armani, and I tell you about the smell, the performance, the longevity, so on and so forth, I want to start things off by saying that if you're a fan of fragrance-related content, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. Hit that bell icon so you could be notified whenever I do upload future videos to the channel. And of course, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it or if you took something of value from today's episode. Now, the perfumer for this is Antoine Maison Dieu. If you look at the note breakdown, there's tonka bean, and of course that's an ingredient in the original as well. There's also clary sage, which is an ingredient that is becoming very popular over the past couple of years. There's also bergamot and iris. So it's a really interesting fragrance, but it does convey a sort of personality that maybe is not totally indicated by the note breakdown. For example, I find it to be a little spicy in the dry down. I find it to have a general smoothness, and at times it can also come across a little powdery. Well, I'm excited to share with you my thoughts in regards to the smell. Let's take a very quick look at the presentation. So going back to what I was saying before, I said this fragrance can be a little sweet, a little powdery, a little spicy. So it basically opens up with this powdery personality. Not overly powdery, it doesn't smell like baby powder per se, but you can just tell in terms of its olfactory texture. It's not flat and compressed, it's definitely more billowy and almost like kind of musky at the same time. And I think the reason for that is the iris and the tonka bean. Now, tonka bean is an ingredient that smells a little nutty with a vanillic overtone, so it does smell a little bit like vanilla. And then iris is an ingredient that can smell powdery. It's a floral ingredient, but it can also smell kind of waxy. Some people have compared it to the smell of lipstick or a cosmetic bag. Now, of course, that is the case when it comes to the original Dior by Christian Dior. That was a very strong iris fragrance that smells so much like lipstick. You don't have that necessarily happening in this fragrance, but you do have a lot of that tonka bean that's creating that smoothness underneath. Now, in terms of the bergamot in the opening, it's kind of non-existent. I mean, you do have this general nondescript freshness in the opening, but nothing really noteworthy, so it doesn't smell like a citrus fragrance per se. Although there might be some citrus compounds in the opening, it doesn't really smell citrusy. But you are going to get that clary sage molecule that's in here. Could be sclarine, which is becoming very popular. And what that does is it adds this sort of airy, aromatic smell to the fragrance. A little herbal. Sometimes it can be compared to lavender. Sometimes it can be compared to other aromatic ingredients like thyme or rosemary. But it has a very open, very billowy, very fresh, modern, and contemporary smell. And I find that to be the case with a lot of these modern interpretations of classic fragrances. Of course, we all know Armani Code has been around for many, many years. And since its release, we've had Armani Code Sport, Armani Code Ultimate, I think it's called. We've also had Absolute, so on and so forth. Some flankers have been a little bit on the vanilla side of things. The Sport flanker, the one with the red collar, has been a little bit more on the citrusy and ozonic side of things. And this has a little bit of that freshness in there as well, but I think it's predominantly coming from the clary sage ingredient that's used here. So basically, to sum this up, it is kind of like the original Armani Code with a heart that takes it in this modern, clean, professional vibe that has become very common over the last couple of years in the designer perfume industry. Now, as it dries down, it has a little bit of like a spicy sweetness to it. Could very well be coming from the tonka bean, but for me, at times, it kind of reminds me of the spicy sweetness you would get from like star anise or licorice or something like that. And it's actually really, really nice. That powderiness eventually does subside, and then you're just left with this creamy, smooth vanilla tonka bean sort of a base, almost bordering on like amber territory, but not too much. There are certainly some other amber perfumes that I've tried recently, one of them being Tom Ford's Noir Extreme Parfum, another Parfum. That fragrance has a little bit more amber in it. This one on the other side, it's definitely more about the iris, the tonka bean, and the clary sage. Those are the ingredients that really dominate this composition. All in all, I do find this to be a more contemporary take on the original. This one is a bit more billowy. As I said, the original seems a bit more compressed. This one is a bit more billowy. If you smell it side by side, you'll truly be able to see the juxtaposition and where the differences lie. Overall, I am a fan of this one. I think this is great. I haven't been a fan of every Parfum fragrance that's been released. For example, I still do enjoy wearing the Eau de Toilette version of Bleu de Chanel. I find it to be more diffusive. The Parfum is very nice, but I still prefer the Eau de Toilette. Even in the case of Gucci Guilty Parfum, they took it more in like a Bleu de Chanel direction, right? So I feel like it's kind of like cheating on the original DNA. So I have my qualms with some other fragrances, but with this one, I really do enjoy it. It does smell very close to the original. I would say about 70% similar to the original. So if you're a fan of the original, you're just looking for a modern, more contemporary upgrade with a nice dose of orris root, definitely check out the Parfum Flanker. Let's finish things off with my overall assessment. Now, first up, in terms of the uniqueness and the overall smell, true flanker, does what a flanker is supposed to do, smells like the original, but definitely takes things in its own direction. Longevity is about 8 hours on my skin. The projection was great for the first 2 hours. It became an elbows length scent at that 4.5 hour mark. It became a skin scent at that 8 hour mark. So definitely above average. Versatility, it is marketed for men. I think this one is great for anybody of any age. I think this one can work really well in every season. I can see this one being worn in the colder weather effortlessly. I can also foresee some people not wanting to wear this one in the summertime because perhaps that powdery quality in the tonka bean can be a little bit overwhelming to some. This one has a formal vibe, and if you want something a bit more casual, of course, Armani Code Sport or one of the other lighter, fresher flankers might do you a little bit better in the hotter weather. And in terms of the presentation, I do like the magnetic cap. I do think that the small bottle is a little stubby, so perhaps I should have bought the bigger bottle, but I have a pretty big collection. I didn't really need that much liquid. My final verdict on this one is I really do like this flanker. I think that Armani Code Parfum takes a lot of what was beloved about the original and does things in a modern twist, adding the clary sage, really amping up that orris root ingredient to sort of create this billowy texture that was somewhat found in the original, but this one does it in a very modern, fresh, elegant, and chic kind of a way. I'm enjoying this one, and I definitely look forward to wearing this one a lot more in the colder weather. I think fall and winter are really going to be the best times of the year to wear this one. Thank you so much for watching. That was my review of the brand new Armani Code Parfum by Giorgio Armani. If you own or have tried this fragrance, please let me know what you think. Leave a comment down below. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the video. Give it a thumbs up if you learned something new today, and hit the bell so you could be notified whenever I do upload these videos to the channel. Thank you all so much for joining me today. Love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.